like everyone here, we shall start now. Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone. My name is Nur Ainsha binti Halim and I will be moderating this workshop, which is workshop 1, What is International Law Mooting? Before we begin our program, please fill in the form through the link that we provide in the chat box. Thank you. Without further ado, let's move on to our main agenda today. And please take note that the purpose of us having this workshop is to introduce international law mooting to FUHA students. This workshop aims to give our students an opportunity not only to know better about international law mooting, but also to give them a better view on how to join international mooting competition. Our first speaker is Mr. Muhammad Shafiq bin Sulaiman, and the next speaker will be Mr. Muhammad Shahril bin Hajar Muhaiddin. If you have any question for the speakers, you can ask during the Q&A session. The wonderful speaker for our next session will be Mr. Muhammad Shafiq bin Sulaiman, a professional law lecturer from UniSZA, who will provide an introduction to what the international law moot is. Without further ado, I will give the spotlight to Mr. Shafiq. Everyone, please be ready with papers and pens. The floor is yours, Mr. Shafiq.
Mr. Shafiq, hello.
Yes. Just give me a moment. Right, Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. So, indeed, the purpose of today's event is for our students in general and so on. But I would love all the oralists to introduce themselves. Did all oralists are in, I would say, in the auditorium or in the room? Who's the manager of today's event?
Me, sir.
Yeah. So, could you introduce each and one of the team and then ask them to also introduce themselves so that we know more about themselves, right? So, who's the first
Okay.
team? Their names.
Okay, for the first team is Martin Luke, anak lelaki Michael Benedict, and Kishan Kumar, anak lelaki Ilan Govan. Would you
All right.
please introduce yourself?
So, please introduce yourself, the first team, some of your background, and then probably the reason you joined this MOOT competition. All right.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
If you could turn on video as well, if it's possible. If not possible, then it's okay.
I couldn't turn on the camera because of the internet connectivity. So
Right.
I'm sorry. Good morning, everyone. My name is Martin Luke, and my partner is Kishan Kumar. I don't know whether he's in here or not. We have planned to join this competition because we want the exposure of mooting, first of all. We plan to join mooting competition in the future as well. And we believe that with this experience, we could really improvise our skills in mooting. And hopefully to make new friends and learn from my the learned friends as well. Um, in the future, we really plan to join Philip's competition. So I believe that this is the stepping stone for us to become one of the Philip Mooter. Also, we are from LLB 1. I think that's it.
Okay. So your partner, if he's around, who's the partner again?
Kishan
Yeah, hi
Kumar.
sir. Hi
Yeah,
sir, am I audible?
yeah, audible.
Yeah, hello and hi everyone. My name is Kishan Kumar, Kiran Govind, and I'm from Ipopera. And the reason why I joined this international mooting because I don't have any exposure to this thing, and it's the first time. As my partner, he's already participated in one of the competition, mooting competition. So I'm very new to this international mooting, and everything's new for me. So in near future, I hope to join more competition with this experience. And yeah, that's also.
Okay, thank you very much. Probably we can listen to other teams as well. So who's the next?
The next team is Faris Akmal bin Abdul Rahman and Siti Aisyatul Amiza binti Khairul Amin.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everybody. My name is Faris Akmal Brahman. I am first year of IR Bachelor in UniSZA. So the reason why I'm interested in mood because I think mood is a good way to express your feelings, your opinion, and I think to join this competition is one of uh, better how should I say for my future lah. So that's all for me. My teammate is Siti Aisyatu. Aisyatu, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hello everyone. My name is Siti Aisyatul Amiza binti Khairul Amin. I am a first year student from SM International Relations. And the reason I joined this moot court law mooting is I would like to gain experience and exposure in various things. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Very well. Next.
The next team would be Aisyah binti Muhammad Rahim and Putri Aminurin Kashdrina binti Zulhiri.
Hi, good morning everyone. So sorry, I'm not feeling a bit well today, but I'm Asha from Team 3. Reason why I want to join this competition is I really want to get mooting experience since I've never experienced something like this because it's something new and really hope wait, I'm so nervous because this is like my first time competing in mooting. So yeah, I just hope that it will went well. And thank you for the opportunity. That's all from me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
My partner, she has problem with her internet connection, so I don't think she can. She will join us in a bit.
Okay. So I hope internet problem wouldn't be an issue when at least when the competition happens. And I think this is a fully online mood as well, including the training and so on. So I hope, I've been hearing about internet problem, I think, for the past 2 years. since PKP, so I hope this wouldn't be an issue anymore. I hope she could do something about it. All right. So next.
Okay, for the next team would be Pavitra, anak perempuan Raja Singgam, and Kirti Rubini, anak perempuan Morgan.
Hello, sir. Good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, sure.
I'm Pavitra Rajasingham, currently in my third year LLB. So I have participated in MOOT competition before, which is only internal among UniSZA. So, but it's our first time for international mooting competition. So we hope we can gain more experience through this competition. Thank you.
All right.
Good morning, this is Shafiq, and good morning, everyone. I'm Kirti. I'm third year LLB student. Just like Pavitra said just now, we have participated in internal novice mooting, but it's first time to participate in international law moot. I'm looking forward for the competition, and thank you.
Okay. So next.
Next team, Carmen Hu Jiawen and Tigashini, anak perempuan Sri Kumar.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. My name is Carmen. I'm a first year international relations student, and I've never participated in any mooting competitions or anything at all. So I believe this will be a great learning opportunity for me. Thank you very much.
Hello, sir, and hello, everybody. Good morning. I'm Divyashini Sri Kumar. I'm first year LLB student. So this is my first time joining a mooting workshop. So I hope this would gain my exposure regarding mooting. Thank you.
Okay. So next team, please.
For team 6, Muhammad Hardi Haris and Muhammad Kamaruzaman bin Ciani.
Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Muhammad Aris. You can call me Hardi. I am a second year IR student. The reason why I joined this program, Mooting, because I want to challenge myself to pursue something that I never ever once in a dream will be participating. That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum and hello.
Yeah.
My name is Kamal Zaman. I joined this meeting is because I think this is an opportunity for me to learn more about my course and how the mooting is, and maybe I just want to try a new thing. That's all.
Okay. Next.
Sir, for now that will be all because one more team hasn't found her partner yet.
Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. For your introductions, I think we have very diverse group of students, which is very interesting. And I hope this will pave the way for our success in the future. So talking about success, I've been trying for the past 2 years to create that success with little to probably not much of a success, and I hope the future could be brighter for these teams. I think there are 6 of you. Some of you will be joining JESUP, so I wish to see for the first time ever, for the past 15 years, I think FUHA was established back in 2006. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm actually your senior as well. Your senior because I was LLB student in FUHA from 2008 until 2012. Okay. So So there was Jessup team was never been a part of IR department because IR department actually established a little bit late. I think, I'm not sure, probably 2013 or something. The law department started first in 2006. Okay, so I think even last year, for the past 2 years, I was trying to set up Jessup team. You know, I'm talking about Jessup because the whole reason, the very reason, the purpose, the establishment, the creations of ILSA MOOT is to find, to prepare the next oralists, the next, we call it oralists. I know other entities, organizations will use the term mutus. So we use the terms oralists as a standard terms. We use the same terms as ILSA official, all right? So oralists, all of you to prepare to get this, to get all of you 6 teams, and I think there are more teams will come later. To prepare for the J17. And my wish is to see the first time ever in the history of FUHA and UniSZA that we have combinations, the merger of IR and law students. I hope that will create some synergy, some dynamic that will propel us into a higher positions, higher rankings, higher success and achievement in JSUP. And ILSA is also being responsible for IHL, International Humanitarian Law Moot Court Competition, which is, I was also an oralist of IHL. My first ever moot competitions was IHL back in 2008. My second moot competition was JSUP, 2009, and then another JSUP, 2010. So I was 2-time JESUPers, as per ILSA term, JESUPers. And we at ILSA UniSZA, we use the term JESUPian. It's the same thing. So I was in JESUP competitions twice, 2009 and 2010. IHL once, 2008. And I joined multiple other competitions. Unfortunately, I could not show you my certificate of participations. I don't know where those materials are. I keep moving around and I sort of lost those things. But probably in the future, I will also show participants about those certificates as well. So I have joined a lot other moot competitions. And when I returned back to UniSZA, as a lecturer, I asked around your seniors if anyone has ever joined moot competitions as much as I did, and so far nobody has really break that records yet. I think I joined up to 8 moot competitions every semester. So if that's not a passion, then I don't know what is the right term to describe that devotions and commitment I had back then. So every semester I would join moot competitions. So I'm just like Shario. Shario, are you in the house? Mr. Shario?
Hello?
All right, Shario.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Okay.
All right, so Shario is in the house. As much as commitment Shario has to community service, I guess. So he stay on campus every semester. Yes, I did too, but for different reason. So I stay on semester. We don't have online training like this. It's all physical in 2008, 2012. So I join moot competition every semester. When it's semester break, I stay on campus. And usually not many boys are interested to join MOOT competitions. Usually they are girls, they are female students rather than male students. The composition that we have now is very sweet. I congratulate organizer for managed to have such a balanced participants. I mean, we have balanced number of male and female students, IR and law students. It's a success in and of itself. Back then, it was usually female students. In the Jessup team, out of 5 oralists, I'm the only guy. Another 4 are female students, your seniors. And then back then, it was only law students, no IR students. So sometimes I live alone in some buildings, some rooms somewhere, all by myself because I don't have partners or anything. And then I prefer to sort of solo oralist. So I decided not to have researcher and so on. So I'm on my own. So every semester I'll stay on campus. So one of the reasons why I'm being called back or I'm being offered position as a lecturer, the agreement was for me to train, to impart my knowledge and experience for MOOT competitions. That was the agreement that I had with FUHA administrator, with dean and so on. And I did not forget that. So that's why I'm very stern. I'm very committed about MOOT competitions, but not all MOOT competitions. If you ask me about Sharia MOOT competitions, there's nothing much I can do about it. By international law, it should be within my, the ball is in my court, sort of. So this is something I never ever forget. Well, it's not 100% for MOOT because as you can see, I think in the poster itself, I'm a lecturer of international law. So that is my another expertise that is required here in FUHA to teach international law. There are so many subjects of international law. Public international law is the main, is the mother or the umbrella terms to describe international law, but we have specialized branches of international law, IHL, international humanitarian law, the law of war, international human rights law, law of the sea, environmental law. There are dozens. The list is almost non-exhaustive. And I hope you guys already being able to access our library, ILSA UniSZA library. And if you can see those channels, those categorizations that I had, that we have created, those represents the vastness, a long list of what international law as a field can be. It's very huge. And I hope some of you will be interested to pursue international law as well as specializations, and hopefully you can come back in FUHA and serve as a lecturer just the way I do, the way I've been called back here in FUHA. So there was one name that has been given by my fellow friends, your senior lah, during my study. I was called Bapak Mooting, the father of mooting here, right? Because of my devotions to these activities, to these programs. Every semester, from first semester until my final semester of LLB, final year, imagine that, when everyone was sort of like busy, or sort of pretending to be busy. But final year for LLB is very hectic. The classes is like early in the morning from 8 until 10 o'clock. It's like 1 year of super hectic course that we have to take. So when I read about students' comments of pressure studying and so on, I've experienced the same thing, and all of your lecturers too as well. So it's not something that happened just to you. I mean, we have, we've been that, we have done that. So it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and then until 10 classes, just non-stop. Just like 1 year of, I don't know, of torture for LLB students. And I believe first year until third year is also busy as well, but not until up in the middle of the night and so on. So despite that, I still join MOOT competitions. So on top of those hectic study schedule and so on, I join MOOT competitions. It's not an excuse for me. It's a passions, devotions, and commitment like no other. So that's my history with mooting generally. And so because of moot competitions I have joined, mostly I joined some arbitration competitions, I joined mostly moot court competitions, and most of the competitions are international law topics or subjects, and that make me more interested about international law, and I decided to specialize in international law during my master's degree and then during my PhD as well. So that's how my life unfolded in terms of my career and my professional focus, international law and also moot competitions and so on, because it relates to each other, right? It's international law, moot court competitions is international law, and mooting as well. So that's briefly about who I am and where's my standing and positions as far as mooting is concerned. And then these slides, I haven't completed the slide yet. I'm sort of like the whole family a bit busy now for Idul Adha celebration and so on. But later, I hope I could expand this slides into something much more detailed and comprehensive. But I do have previous slides that I've used to teach and also to guide new oralists into the competitions. Okay, but before that, I think I should start with the materials on my left first. These materials, okay. So when it comes to mooting, I really like how Dr. Rajesh Sharma here from I think the program that was conducted in Hong Kong University, if I'm not mistaken, when he talked about what does he need to have the characteristics and also the attributes of a good oralist in order for him to train and in order for him to establish a successful team, a champion team. All right. So let me share the video. I hope you guys can hear the audio as well. Even if you cannot, then I think there's a subtitle that you can read that subtitle as well. All right, I'm sharing the video and I hope you guys can watch this. It's just a few minutes video, but it really represents what I think the best character attributes of an oralist. If we have enough of these oralists, we can achieve success in mooting, become a champion, represent Malaysia, and then at international level and so on.
When my dean said that, Rajesh, you have to coach a team to make them world champion. And I was thinking that, wow, oh my God. I look at our student, I look at Hong Kong students everywhere, and I said that, how I'm going to do that? And then I looked at around and I said that, what I need in my student to win that? The first thing, I need the rigor, the content and the rigor of German students, because they are very good at that. Then I need this smoothness and a structure of Australian students. Even in the heavy bombardment of questions they don't leave their structure and they stick to that. So I needed that kind of a thing. I needed American team who can sell the idea like a marketing person. I needed a street smartness of Indian student who can answer any question anyway, like, that kind of a thing. And then I needed somebody, looking at Hong Kong, the local effect is that I wanted somebody of a Chinese face, but the Singaporean perfect English. So basically, I was looking for a superhuman. And we had the trust, we had the faith in our student, and we wanted to do that. And we did find that, and we did achieve that.
All right. So it's the video that I kept for so long for the past 2 years, and I was show this video to all newcomers oralists that this is exactly what we need, but not necessarily we have everything in an oralist. All right. So the character, the attributes of an oralist that we need first.
And I was thinking that, wow, oh my God. I look at our student. When my dean said that, Rajesh, you have to coach a team to make them world champion. And I was thinking that, wow, oh my God. I look at our student, I look at Hong Kong students everywhere, and I said that, how I'm going to do that? And then I looked at around and I said that, what I need in my student to win that? The first thing I need.
All right, the rigor, the comprehensiveness, very details, very focused, very sharp. Well, sharp and comprehensive probably doesn't go hand in hand, but that comprehensiveness, that rigor, that details, that perfections of the way you see issues in mood problem, the way you see that particular subjects, international law, is it environmental law, is it humanitarian law, that comprehensiveness and the rigor is the first thing that we need in order to train a team that will make an impact, that is a champion team.
The rigor, the content and the rigor.
The content and the rigor of German students. So German students are one of the successful teams in JESUP. Actually, you wouldn't. I mean, it comes as a surprise to some of you, and so do I, that German students can actually speak very good English, and also it's not about their oral submissions, but it's their memorial that is very impressive. I mean, their memorials consistently emerge as one of the top 10. There are more than one team from Germany that represent Germany, because in JESUP, the number of teams that represent the country depends on the number of national rounds participants. So for every 10 teams, there will be one representative. So a country like India, Germany as well, for example, that have a huge number of teams. So if there are 20 teams, there will be 2 teams that are going to represent the country. If there are 30 teams, 30, then there will be 3 teams. So every 10 teams that join national JESUP competitions at local level, okay, because international round is at Washington, D.C. in USA. So every 10 teams, there will be 1 team that represent the country. So if there are 20 teams, then 2 teams. If 30 teams, then 3 teams. All right. But Malaysia, we don't have much national round teams. I think the most we have around 9 or probably 11. So only 1 team represents Malaysia to Washington, D.C. every year. So those are mostly the teams like University of Malaya, International Islamic University teams, and University Technology Mara. Usually those are the top 3 teams that represent the country. University of Malaya is like every single year they're going to end up at final rounds. IIUM as well. So those are two teams that consistently perform every single year. So country like Germany, there are more than 10 teams, 20 or more. Country like India, for example, I have, I don't know, like 30 or 40 teams. So more representative represent the country. Indonesia, I think more than 20 teams. So they have two teams represent the country in Washington, D.C. So when you read German students, German team memorial, it's impressive that details, that comprehensiveness, like they cover every possible issues and ideas, something that many of us wouldn't even think about, wouldn't even consider about. They cover everything. And I think we have achieved that level of rigor and comprehensiveness in our own JESEP team, Shariel JESEP team this year, 2022. I think we have our applicant memorial, if I'm not mistaken, that has score the highest, the single highest memorial marks. Okay, our own JESEP team has reached that, and it requires very serious effort to reach that level of content and rigor. Okay, we try as much as possible to cover as much issues as possible. No single issue is being left out. So no matter how small the issues, we cover those in the memorial in our written submissions. Okay, that's the content and rigor that we need first and foremost to become a successful team, champion team.
Of German students, because they are very good at that. Then I need this smooth.
All right, this one is oral submissions. Rigor and content is memorial. This one is oral submission, the smoothness.
And the structure of.
Smoothness and the structure. This one, Australian students, Australian teams, very consistent at international level. They are they always end up being in final rounds together with Singaporean team, our own neighbor. So in every international round JESEP competitions, it's either Australian team or Singaporean teams. We can almost bet that either one of the teams will end up being at final rounds, or probably both of them end up being in final rounds. All right. So smoothness and the structure of the Australian student. This one is oral submission, which will be explained, discussed, elaborate further by Mr. Shariel, how to become a very smooth and very structured oralist. The memorial part is not the hardest part. The rigor, the content, the comprehensiveness, the rigor of memorial. It's not the hardest part. I think UniSZA team has made it to that level before. Okay. But the biggest problem I have is oral submissions. I think many of you here have very competent, very excellent command of the language. By language, it's English language proficiency. I hope all of you have that kind of level. If not, at least half of oralists that we have now have very competent English language capability, very proficient in the language. Because as I said earlier, the hardest part to train when it comes to MOOT competitions, and this is applicable across the board, it is applicable to all MOOT competitions, because there is written part, there is speaking part. Okay, the speaking part is the hardest in the way that it took me so long, and then the online training some more. If compared to physical training, when we have face-to-face training, is probably a little bit easier. But online training, one is like screen versus screen, all right? One person living at the other side of the country and so on. So because of the English proficiency, most oralists that I've encountered, most oralists that I've trained, have difficulty in expressing themselves, just like the choice of words, and also sometimes difficulty to understand what the judges meant. Sometimes judges, they're not very straightforward. They sort of want to test your, I don't know, awareness, or just want to test your understanding about particular matters or issues, which is fine, but sometimes their choice of words are not really clear, not very straightforward. But most judges are very straightforward. They know that you are nervous. They know that you are, after all, students. I mean, you're not expected to know everything under the sky. You're not expected to know everything about international law or particular area of the moot competitions. But there's some judges who ask in non-straightforward way. Sometimes our oralists, our students, they could not understand what it mean by those questions. Contributed by judges' non-straightforward approach, and also contributed by the lack of English language, the command of the language as well. So English language is something I could not do much as a trainer. I could not do much as a coach, because it's something personal. Language is personal. I mean, you should have come into law school. You should have come into university already proficient in the language, or at least you try to be proficient in the language, because mastery of language takes so much time. To be fluent, to be proficient in language, it takes time. So if your English is not that good during your school years, and then you enter university and hope that it will improve to some extent, yes. But it's not going to be 100% proficient. And I hope many of these oralists are already proficient in English language. Based on your introduction earlier, I think all of you are good in English language already. And then it's not about the language when it comes to oral submission, speaking part of the mood. It's also self-composure. I mean, when you're nervous, no matter how much preparation you have done, that nervousness, it kills everything. I know, because I've been there. But then you need to bounce back, or you need to overcome that nervousness. That's another part of the difficulty of training oralists to prepare for moot competition is no matter how much training, no matter how much coaches train you, trainers have trained you, in the end, it's you that have to be in control. Okay? So you have to control your nervousness, you have to maintain composure. And then our JSERP competitions this time around will be physical, IHL as well. We have moved past the pandemic era into endemic already. So it's physical now. We're going to travel to other universities for competition. It's not online anymore. It's not sitting behind a computer screen. So you have to stand up straight. You have to, the whole composure of yourself has to be very professional. and those things, it takes time. Sometimes, when I tell our oralists, you have to be professional. The word professional itself is being interpreted in 1,001 ways. So that's another problem about training as well, just like what I meant by particular instruction is being interpreted differently. So those are some of the challenges that we have in when it comes to training. But based on my experience, memorial wasn't the hardest part. It's the oral is the hardest part. Some of you probably have this built in, or some of you already have this capability, this natural talent to speak well. Like Mr. Shario, probably. There are some people, whenever they talk, it command sort of respect, like people listen. But not everyone has that capability. Okay. So, but those are, it relates to charisma in some way, but those can be trained, even though you're not a good speaker. But if you have enough experience, if you join a lot of competitions, if you done a lot of training, that will help. Okay. So smoothness and the structure is another important part in establishing a successful team. And for me, based on my experience, the hardest part to do. Okay.
Australian students, even in the heavy bombardment of questions, they don't leave their structure and they stick to that. Their structure and they stick to question.
Right, heavy bombardment of questions. Okay, during its moot competitions, judges will ask you a lot of questions. So some oralists, because of nervousness, or probably they don't have much confidence in themselves. Confidence is another word. Confident is not something that we can teach others how to be confident. It's just like it's in you, inside of you, something innate that makes you feel confident. So there are certain psychological aspects of the training that cannot be taught. It's in you as a person to build that confidence. It's in you as a person to be professionals. So, okay, probably you can watch YouTube videos about how to be confident, how to be professional from now, so that you can learn some of the practical skills, how to be confident and professional. The heavy bombardment of questions, judges will ask you a lot of questions. And then some of you, due to the lack of confidence, shaken, feel, on top of that, you are nervous. And then even though you know the answers to those questions, but you could not deliver, you could not submit those answers very well. You second guess yourself. You say it's actually the right answer for that question, but because you sort of doubt whether that is the right questions, and then you did not do well. It's not because you haven't prepared those questions, but because you are nervous and lack of confidence.
They don't leave their
right? They don't leave their structure, and sometimes judges try to make you sway into some other territories, try to make you leave your original structure. Okay, some oralists they are being I wouldn't say misled, but the judges try to push you from whatever original structure and system you have in the beginning. But good teams, they sort of negotiate or they sort of flexible. they have structure. So oral submission is like how I describe oral submission or in the moot competition is like you're going from point A to point B. The whole submission, the whole 20 minutes or 15 minutes that you have as an oralist is you are going to point A to point B and you want to bring together judges, the court, to your journey together with you from point A to point B. Sometimes judges, because that's what they do, rightly so, would try to change the directions. You know, they are messing around with your GPS. So instead of turning right, they want you to turn left. And then instead of going down, they want you to going up. So those kind of things you have to deal with. It's a part of the game. It's a part of the what mood is. Okay, but so in order to bring judges with your journey from point A to point B, sometimes you are being you get distracted by the judges asking you questions here and there. So the whole idea about oral submission is you negotiate you being flexible. There's always another way to whatever destinations that you have. You know, if you travel a lot, you use GPS, Waze, or Google Maps, and so on. When you miss certain junctions or you miss certain corners or certain areas, there's always another road, another route that will bring you to the same destinations. And that is how mood is. Okay. So even though you have even though you have original route or route towards that destinations, but sometimes you don't necessarily have to use the same road route to reach your destinations. You can always use other alternative routes depending on how the judges react or respond to you. Okay. This is a skill. This is not something that you get in terms of especially first timers. Okay, so mode competition is experience. It's skill that requires experience. So if you join once, you know, just join again for a second time or third time, or like I did for 8 times, you know, in other competitions and so on. So, you know, it makes you a better oralist. It improves your experience, it improves your skills, and in every new competitions that you join, you know, you get better because of the experience, the past experience that you have, right?
Structure, and they stick to that. So I needed that kind of a thing. I needed American team who can sell the
and more competition as well. And mood competition as well is about selling ideas in the way that we have applicant and respondent teams, all right? Or you have plaintiff or defendant in contract cases, for example, or you have prosecutor versus defense in criminal cases, for example. There's always two sides of the story. There's always two sides of perspective. There's always different side of perspective or looking at things. Okay, so it's about telling the judges, it's about persuading the judges that your side of the story is the better version of what happened. Your authority is better than the other side. Your facts, your understanding of the facts are better than the other sides. You have to sell that idea that your side is better. Okay, that's another thing that we need in our oralists, the ability to convince, the ability to persuade judges that your side is better, right? And it requires skills and experience.
Idea like a marketing person. I needed a
Street smartness,
of Indian student who can answer any question.
answer any questions and anywhere. Um, okay, I'm not 100% agree with this statement, but I think it's acceptable in a way that best teams, champion team, there's no single questions, not even a single question being left out or being left unanswered. Okay, no matter how many questions the judges ask them, no matter how many questions they receive, every single question they will try their best to answer those questions. All right, weak teams that do not do well, usually there are quite a number of questions that they could not answer, and then they will apologize and move on. There's nothing wrong about that. If you really have no answers to those questions, instead of bluffing, then just tell the truth that you do not know the answers and you just move on. There's nothing wrong about that. But champion team, every single questions, they have all the answers. And it goes back to preparations. It goes back to the content, the rigor of the memorial. I mean, you have a few months to do research. Again, you use the time as much as possible on top of your other responsibilities, studies, and so on. When you use the time very well to do very good research. So in MOOT competitions, do not underestimate the importance of research. Do not underestimate the importance of memorial, because that memorial, that research that you have done for the past few months, oral submission is just 1 month or so. For example, JESOP, we have 5 months of preparations. The first 4 months are to write memorial, to do research, right? Just 1 month to prepare for oral submissions. Some teams who did not use the first 4 months very well, they do not do good research, they do not use the time well, and then when it comes to oral submissions, they will have a lot of problems because the foundation is not clear, the research is not clear. A lot of issues have not been properly studied and so on. And then when they start with oral submission, that is where everything becomes huge problems for them, because when you build a house or a structure, the pillars are the most important part. Without good pillars, the whole structure will collapse. This is something I observe in our teams. I cannot talk about other teams because I didn't train them. I didn't stay with them from the beginning till the end. But our own teams usually did not prepare well during the oral submissions. It depends on oralists as well. Some oralists did very well, superbly well when it comes to research. Like every meeting that we have, usually every 2 weeks, we'll meet to discuss whatever research that the oralists have done. And you start to notice some oralists have a lot more research and some oralists do not have much research. And when it comes to oral submissions, you can always bet, you can sort of predict how well oralists do during the competitions, during the oral, during the speaking part of the MOOT. based on the level of research that he or she has done. Okay, so in order to answer any question anywhere, it has to start from the research phase. It has to start from the memorial. Okay, you write good memorial, you do excellent research, and then it becomes the base products, the foundations for you to use it during oral submissions, right?
Question anyway, like, that kind of a thing. And then I needed somebody looking at Hong Kong, the local effect is that I wanted somebody of a Chinese face, but the Singaporean perfect.
Singaporean perfect English. I think our very own neighbor has perfect English, and I think many of us as well. Okay, so last but not least, apart from the rigor, apart from the smoothness, structured, apart from selling ideas, apart from being able to answer all kind of questions, is the English as well. So when it comes to language proficiency, when it comes to English proficiency, I cannot do much. Your trainers, your coaches cannot do much. It's pretty much in you to improve your language. All right. So without good English or perfect English, then our teams will not do well in oral submissions. I know we have teams that speaks flawless English, teams from University of Malaya, teams from International Islamic University. So when you observe, when you watch our teams competing with these teams, sometimes the level of language is very jarring in the way that our teams speak. Our team has certain level of proficiency, and then the other team speaks like it's their mother tongue. So another problem that I have, challenge that I have to train successful team is the mastery of the language. This one, I cannot do much. I sort of expect when you enter universities, you already have the proficiency already in you, instead of you just sort of use your degree times or university times to improve it, right?
English. So basically, I was looking for a superhuman. And we had the trust, we had the faith in our student, and we wanted to do that. And we did find that, and we did achieve that.
Okay. The last statement of his, unfortunately, until today, I could not really say what he has said. But I hope in the next few years, I could say that. We did find that.
And we did find that. And we did
achieve that. As for now, we haven't find that yet. And we haven't achieved it yet. So the perspective for me is it's it's possible to establish good teams, successful team. UniSZA, for UniSZA teams to win big competitions like JESUP, but it requires a lot of effort as well. It requires a lot of sacrifice as well, and then it requires a lot of helps, and a lot of many other things to make it happen. Okay, but I'll make this um, ambitions as my own personal targets, my own personal focus to see that someday our UniSZA teams will emerge as champion in the competition. All right. So that pretty much cover a lot of things I would like to say today. The rest of the materials I'll share with you, these PDF materials that I have prepared for the past 2 years to train oralists, and also probably some relevant materials that I think you guys should be reading. Okay, for example, this guide to international moot court competitions, a guide to Philip Jessup International Law Moot Court, tips for writing Jessup Memorial. This thing I'll share with you later in the group, in Microsoft Teams group, and then you can have a read. And also later I will update the mood coaching guides that I have prepared a few years ago when I first came, all right, so that it becomes the official module to train our oralists for competitions. Okay. So is there any questions before I pass to Mr. Sharil for the next sessions? All right, if there's no questions, then I'll pass back to our organizer for the next session. Thank you very much, everyone. And I hope you guys will benefit a lot from our competitions. And I expect to see you guys in the next Jessup and ISL team. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shafiq, for the informative talk. Before we move on to the next speaker, I would like to remind you again that everyone is advised to fill in the attendance form, especially to those who have not filled in the form yet. For those who have already done it, you may rest assured. Now let's proceed to the next speaker, which is Mr. Muhammad Sharil bin Hajar Muhyiddin. Mr. Sharil is a moot master who had joined the Jessup moot court competition last year, and he was awarded as the top oralist. Let's offer Mr. Sharil a warm welcome to the floor.
Hi everyone. Thank you to the moderator for calling me out here. Just checking. You guys can see me, right?
Yes, Mr. Sharil.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So first of all, I actually like to apologize because, of course, the first rule, ataupun very basic for mooting, you're supposed to be dressed up well, like in a suit ke, nampak smart lah kan. However, I'm wearing a t-shirt, so I'm so sorry for that. I'm not currently at campus because I am currently at a training center lah, for a community service program. So, right, so for today's session, I will be talking a lot more about your mindset for mooting and what you should be expecting, as well as a bit of tips that I hope will be able to help you up in your journey in mooting. So while I am trying to present my screen, so I'll just explain a bit about my background. So previously, I was actively the transition from debating to mooting was actually quite, how to say, difficult because in mooting, more how do you say, studies or more in-depth study of a topic compared to a debate where you'll only be talking about certain things on a surface level and so on. So, and the way that you're presenting your speech that that's not easily, you will have to train for it, and the treatment and a lot of dedication, especially to the researching. What do you say? The researching punya sessions lah, because it takes months for you to research the laws, the cases, and everything that you're going to be. Okay, a moment. Okay, so I hope that my screen is visible. Okay, so mindset for mooting. So like Sir Shafiq mentioned, he has been involved in, I think, 8 moot competitions, whereas my experience is nowhere near that. I've only been to 2 competitions previously, which was the Law Asia mooting competition in 2019, and also the in 2020, and the 2021 JESA. So far, I've only been to 2 moot competitions, but roughly I know how it. Okay. So just a bit of background on what exactly is an oral submission. So an oral submission is like the presentation that you're going to do to the judges about whatever that you have researched for these past few months. Kiranya, like for example, whatever that you have written in your written memorial is what you're going to be presenting orally, or you're going to try to convince the judges that your case was the best case and that you have provided the best arguments and so on. So unlike the memorial, the oral submissions is going to be mostly judged by how you submit your mannerisms, how you answer the questions, how convincing you were in making your arguments and so on. And it's, I would say, I'm not saying that it's not about substance, but they don't look too much into that. It's more about how you convince the judges about your case. However, of course, you're going to have to convince them using the proper laws and the proper facts that you have researched. So you can't try to convince them with something that's wrong. So of course, a lot of research will have to be put into that as well. So with oral submissions in mooting, so there's going to be 2 teams, which is the applicant and the respondent team. So meaning to say that a team will be provided with 45 minutes as a whole, where it will be divided up. So one speaker will speak for 20 minutes and the other speaker will speak for 20 minutes as well. And then you have the rebuttal session. So within this 20 minutes, you will have to submit to the judges whatever that you're trying to convince them of. And at the same time, you're also going to have to answer the questions that they're going to ask you. So if you're not ready to answer the questions, you might, lose track of what you're trying to submit. You might freeze, waste time. So this will factor your marking as well, because the judges will see that, oh, you haven't exactly prepared well, or that you're just not ready to submit your case to the judges. So after both teams have submitted, there will be a rebuttal session. So the rebuttal session is basically just the teams asking questions to each other and answering these questions ataupun like at the end, meaning like let's say for example the respondent questions certain things that have been highlighted by the applicant side in their submissions, and then the applicant side answers the questions that have been raised, and as well they pose some questions to the respondent side as well. So meaning like they bring out what was wrong with each other's cases. However, what is most important is the submissions that you'll be making from the applicant and respondent side of how you are going to convince the judges that you are the one who's won this case. So the flow basically is that you start with the applicants and then the respondents, and there will be 3 judges, sometimes 2 judges, but this is very rare. However, these 3 judges, there will be 1 judge as the head judge, and there will be 2 other judges who will also be giving their comments as well. So what normally happens is that these judges will try to, how do I say it, try to psycho you. They will be like giving you looks as if like what you're saying is wrong. They will try to, give like the facial expressions, just, blank. They won't show that what you're submitting is good. They won't really show it on their face that they won't approve any of the points that you're making as well, because they're just going to be looking at you, judging you. So it's hard for you to know if what you're saying is correct or not. So you're going to have to be confident and just go on with what you're submitting to the judges. And, of course, all judges have a different method. So meaning to say that some of them like to ask questions, like for example, even if the questions are not challenging, they will just keep on asking you questions to throw you off, so that you get lost sometimes, because when they ask questions here and there, you kind of tend to get lost with what you're submitting. You forget where you were when you're submitting. So when you're thrown out of focus, so you tend to stray from what you were actually submitting. You tend to lose, you don't know what you were saying again, so your point doesn't really go to the judges. And this questioning method, since it is different, some might ask a lot of questions, some might not like to ask any questions. So when the judges are not asking any questions, you need to take this opportunity to, make full use of these 20 minutes to convince the judges, because this whole 20 minutes is allocated for you. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to elaborate much more in depth, illustrate, use a lot of cases, decided cases, facts, principles, international law principles, and so on. So all of this is what you're going to use to convince the judges. So aside from that, you can't really just convince them using these principles, but it's about how you apply them and how you're going to, word your arguments in a way that's convincing for them, or for them to say that, okay, so this works because in this situation, as the applicant has put it, his explanations show that, okay, for example, the principle of non-intervention. So we normally understand that non-intervention means that certain countries can, mingle with another country's affairs. However, the applicants have put it in a way that this is an exception, and that this is for the greater good of, the citizens of the country as well. That is why they have intervened in this country's affairs and so on. So the arguments and the elaboration that you provide is what is going to turn the judges in your favor. And also within these 20 minutes as well, if, let's say, for example, the judges are asking so many questions to the point that you can't really explain what you are trying to submit to the judges, you can request for an addition of time. However, they're not going to give you 10 minutes to, explain everything that you want to say. They will most likely provide you with, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, just to wrap up, or to, just give the gist of your arguments. Because not all judges are going to provide you with this addition of time as well. So this is up to the judges whether they want to give you this time or not. So this is how it's going to look like basically. So you're going to be submitting to the judges directly. So as I understand, this year's JASAP competition is also going to be physical. So for those of you who are going to the national rounds for the JASAP competition, you guys will have to be ready, yeah, because you can't be nervous when you're talking to the judges or anything, because when you're nervous, you tend to forget your arguments and you can't, kelam kabut in front of them physically, because it's not going to look good for you as well. Because when you kelam kabut in front, you're like, flipping through notes or whatever. It shows that you're not prepared to the judges and that you're not confident in your submission or in your argument. So oral submissions normally, they are based on the written memorials that you have submitted, meaning like as Sir Shafiq has explained earlier, the written memorial is very detailed. You're going to talk about every issue from all sorts of angles. However, this written memorial is going to be very long. It's going to be very, very detailed, and it is impossible for you to submit everything that is within your written memorial in 20 minutes. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to choose the best points, and you're going to have to convince them based on these best points. So it's not necessarily going to mirror the written memorials. So we need to say that not everything that is mentioned in the written memorial is going to be in your oral submissions. And also, not necessarily everything that you have in your oral submission script is going to be communicated to the judges because of circumstances. They could be asking a lot of questions. So due to you answering all these questions, you might not touch on certain issues. So that could happen. So what you can do is when the judges ask you questions, you can select certain arguments if they relate, so that all grounds are covered. Okay. So next is that no external aid can be communicated, meaning to say that when you are mooting, you can't really text someone or ask them for any help with your arguments or anything. So even with an oral submission, which is online, you can't be asking or calling someone and asking them, hey, how do I answer this question? What am I going to do? Because of course we are already presenting to the judges, that's for one. And two, that your camera is already turned on. So when your camera is turned on, the judges are going to be seeing you doing everything. So when you're submitting everything, so if you look down, you're looking on your phone, the judges can see that you're not looking at the screen. So they could suspect that you're cheating, you're referring to external aid outside of your submission, your script, and so on, that you might be asking anyone else any questions. So let's not take that risk. Okay, so you are completely on your own when you are submitting orally. So make sure that you are prepared for that 20 minutes. Okay. So next is this is for online submissions. If you are submitting online, it's possible that you could have technical problems. Like for example, your laptop suddenly lags, or if you don't have good internet connectivity. So what you're supposed to do is you should inform the organizers so that when they're expecting you in the mooting punya hall or the room, you are not missing, or that for example your camera is not turned on because your web camera is broken or whatever, it's not working well, so you're not going to turn on your camera. So judges can not accept your submission, I would say, if for example you're not complying to the rules of the competition. So you're going to have to comply to the rules, and if in any case there is any technical issues, you will have to inform the organizers earlier. So be prepared. So if you know that your laptop is problematic, try to borrow your friend's laptop, or if for example your camera quality is not very good, you could borrow someone else's web camera and test it out a day or two before the competition, or maybe during your training sessions, you test out these appliances like this laptop and this web camera and so on. So like me previously, during the JSF competition, I had some problems with my laptop because I couldn't use the microphone. So I had to, borrow my friend's laptop. I had to test it out a few times before submitting as well to ensure that, everything was working on the day of the competition. Because you don't want, suddenly when you're submitting, your laptop dies ke so on lah kan. So anything can happen, so be prepared. Okay, so for oral submission tips. So I assume that you guys are now familiar with how the oral submissions are going to go. It's like 20 minutes, you're presenting to the judges ask questions, you answer these questions, then you wrap up your argument, and it goes for both sides, the applicant and the respondent side. So roughly it's like that, simply put. So this is how it's going to look like. So the judges are going to be directly in front of you, and you're only going to have the podium for yourself for any simple notes that you're going to refer to during the submission. However, you can't really print out like a big booklet of everything that you're going to submit, or you're not going to be reading off the script. So you're going to have to be presenting out of your own understanding and so on. So when you are alone and talking in front of 3 people, you're submitting to these 3 judges, it is going to be a very challenging experience, because these judges are not going to help you by smiling at you and so on. They're going to give you a very serious look. They're going to be asking you, shooting questions at you left and right. And when you freeze, you cannot answer these questions, they will tembak you even more, because of course that is what they're there to do. They're not obligated to be nice to you during this question and answer session as well. So you might find some of these judges to be a bit pushy when they're asking questions and so on. So that is completely normal. So be prepared for that. Okay. So my first tip is on time management, because of course within that 20 minutes you're going to have to submit a lot of important facts, a lot of important things. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to manage those 20 minutes really well. So you don't necessarily have to prepare a script or a draft of a speech for 20 minutes. You can prepare for maybe around 12 to 30 minutes, and the rest you stand by for the question and answer sessions for the judges. However, in the case that the judges do not ask questions, you have a backup where which parts you're going to have to elaborate further, or you can touch on even more in depth. So what Sir Shafiq had us do for the recent, for the last dress up competition was that we prepared 3. One was like one was the full script. The second one was like a shorter or a medium one, and then we had a very simple and very simplified or a very short script as well. So we had 3 versions that we would have. So this is to ensure that you have different copies or different versions that you can refer to, or depending on your situation, because you can't say for sure that the judges are going to allow you to speak for 20 minutes uninterrupted, or you can't exactly say for sure that the judges are only going to be letting you to speak for 10 minutes and the other 10 minutes is going to be a lot of questions that you're going to have to answer on the spot. So it's good to be prepared with different versions of the script, or different versions of points that you're going to have to be submitting to the judges based on the circumstances. So you're going to have to think on your feet. You never know like what is going to happen, how many judges are going to ask you questions, or if the judges don't like certain points, then you're going to have to convince them with something else. So it happens. So as I said earlier, you're going to have to draft several versions of your oral submission script. So you're not necessarily going to bring these scripts to the podium when you're going to be speaking, but it's best that you have different versions. Next is that you will have to keep track of the points that you have submitted to avoid repetition. So what happens is that when you are submitting, certain things are going to overlap. So there are things that are related to each other. So you need to be, how do I say it? You need to keep track of everything that you've said, certain words that you've used, certain key points, so that you don't tend to repeat or be like a radio rosak lah. You just keep repeating the same point again and again and again, and the judges are not going to give you points for repeating the same point even if it's correct. So they want to hear an in-depth explanation as a whole. So avoid repetition, and to To avoid the repetition, what you can do is, like maybe for example, you have a pen in hand, like you have like a piece of paper in front of you with like, like the big points that you want to submit again. So after you've submitted it, you tick sebelah, and then you go to the next point again. So you could do that, so to keep track with what you're speaking. However, if you keep it mentally, you just like keep track in your head. Okay, I already submitted this. Next, I'm going to talk about this point. That'll be much better. So next is on questions. So of course, judges are going to be asking questions, and you might not be able to answer every question because some questions are harder than the other. Maybe you haven't read any cases that are related to what the judges are asking you about, so you don't know what you're going to answer. So what you don't do is you don't act like you know the answer if you don't know the answer, because the judges are going to catch you for that. If you know how to answer the question, please answer the question. However, if you cannot answer the question, you don't waste time by going, I think, give me a minute, I'm going to refer my notes. You don't say that to the judges. Shows that you're not prepared. So you're going to have to, be straightforward. Just tell them, I'm sorry, but I'm not able to assist you on that question. Or you could ask for clarifications like, my apologies, could you please rephrase that question? Or I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you meant. Try to ask for clarification. But if you cannot understand the question or you haven't prepared enough to answer that question, don't answer that question. Just tell the judges that you can't answer it. So, with these questions, also you need to set a time, like when to stop answering the questions. So you answer the questions straightforward. You do not beat around the bush, like repeating your answer again and again, because that's going to take away a lot of time that you could have used to submit your points instead. So if you're wasting around 1 to 2 minutes for each question, and the judges are asking like 5, 6 questions each, then the time that you're going to use to submit or to present what you were supposed to present is already wasted to just you answering these questions alone. So it doesn't really achieve the purpose of your submission. So next is that you have to divide time by importance to address issues thoroughly. Meaning to say that, of course, one speaker is not going to talk about the single issue alone. So, for example, with JASA, previously we had 4 issues. We had like 4 issues. So the applicant side takes 2 issues, the respondent side takes 2 issues. So the applicant side takes the first speaker of the applicant side takes the first 2 issues. Then the second speaker takes the other last 2 issues. And so you're going to be presenting 2 issues. So from these issues, you will be submitting the sub-issues ataupun the explanation ataupun the pecahan from these issues, the different aspects that you're going to be looking at it from. So you're going to have to divide your time in a way that you can achieve the submitting both issues ataupun both points in depth. So for example, the first issue, you submit for 6 to 7 minutes. Then the second issue, you submit for 6 to 7 minutes. You prepare the script for these 2 issues again. So let's say, for example, the first issue is already dragging on for so long. You've been talking about it for 10 minutes. The judges are also asking questions about it. And you see that you don't have time. You only have like about 7 or 8 minutes left for you to submit the second issue. You haven't started submitting it yet. So wrap up your first issue quickly and ask and tell the judges, I will now be proceeding to the next pleading, the second pleading that blah 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 blah. For example, okay, that we request the judge, we request the court to state that the respondents are liable for their damages towards the applicant, contoh like that. So, meaning you are dividing your time properly. So if you are running out of time, if you see that you've talked for too long, 10 to 11 minutes for your first issue, quickly wrap it up and move to your next issue. Because if you're going to be talking too long on the first issue, then the second issue is not answered. So meaning that there isn't much that the respondents are going to respond to, and there isn't much that they have to prove against. So that when the respondents or the other team, makes their points clear or their stance clear on that issue, you've lost that issue, meaning to say that you haven't provided proper arguments to strengthen your case on that issue, so the judges will give that to the other team. So you're going to have to be very careful on your time. So always keep track. Either you set a timer. If you're wearing a watch, you can set a timer. Or what you can do is maybe keep watch of the clock. Like for example, you started at 9:20. You keep track. So always keep looking around at the clock. Like you notice that you started at 9:20. You see the time is now 9:30 already. So you know that 10 minutes has passed, right? So you quickly go to your next point or your next issue. Okay. Next is a structuring of your points. So proper structuring helps you to not lose track of your submission and submit it in a way that it is systematic or clear. Meaning to say that it's not jumbled up. It is tersusun lah. So you say that okay. Normally, like you provide a roadmap. Like you say, okay, so I, as the from the applicant side, will be submitting on the issue that Malaysia requests. I request the applicant side requests that the courts prohibit the state of Indonesia from interfering in Malaysian affairs. And we would also like to submit that we request the court to acknowledge that Indonesia has committed has breached international law principle of non-intervention, for example. Again, so you state the structure or your flow beforehand. You tell the judges what you're going to be talking or what you're going to be submitting on. That you say, okay, so I will first be submitting on the issue of this one, where I will be talking about this one, and this one. Kiranya macam like, you tell the judges what to expect so that they will be keeping track. They know that, okay, you mentioned that you're going to talk about this and this. So you already talked about both of these points. And then you move on to the next point and so on. So it's clear that you're done talking about what you wanted to do. So the judges know that you already submitted what you wanted to submit. So when you structure it in a way where it is not confusing or it is straightforward, it will be easier for you to keep track and also for the judges, so they do not miss certain important points that you want to submit to them. So another thing is that before you submit, make sure to introduce yourself and your role, meaning that, for example, you say, hi, greetings to the honorable judges. My name is Muhammad Shahril, and today I will be speaking for 20 minutes as the applicant, followed by the second speaker from the applicant side, my co-counsel, for example, Mr. Hardy. Okay, so you tell the judges everything, you introduce yourself, it's just basic manners, so the judges know who they're talking to, and then you explain the flow or the roadmap. You tell, okay, first I will be submitting on the ground that Malaysia seeks to declare that Indonesia has reached the principle of non-intervention. Second, I will be submitting that Indonesia has breached blah, 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 and so on. So you provide a roadmap, it's clear for everyone who's listening what you're talking about. Then it makes it clearer for both the applicant team, you, and also the respondent team to respond to your points as well. So next is don't mix up your arguments from the first and second reading. So even if your arguments relate to each other, don't repeat things that you have exclusively submitted on the first point in your second point. It shows that you don't have much to talk about, and it shows that you're simply repeating what you have already established earlier. So don't mix it up. So for you to not mix up certain things, you need to do proper signposting. So signposting is meaning to say that you make it clear to the judges
and to the audience what you're talking about. So signposting is like you say, okay, so on the ground that Indonesia has breached the principle of non-intervention, we submit that sekian. So we are talking about all of this. So when you're done, you say that okay. Now that I have submitted on the ground that Indonesia has breached the principle of non-intervention, I will now be proceeding to the next submission that Indonesia has blah 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 and so on. So you signposting is just making it clear. You show to the judges that you're going to talk about this topic, and then you show the judges that you are done talking about this topic. Then it's like labeling lah. Simply put, it's just labeling your points and your arguments, what you're talking about. And normally when you're mooting, you can offer a brief summary of facts to the judges. So of course, because the moot problem is very long, so you prepare a very short summary of facts of what happened if you're the applicant correspondent, you prepare like a very short summary. Then you ask the judges before you start your argument ataupun your submission. So before you start your submission, you ask if the would the panel of judges require a summary of facts of the moot problem, and then if they normally they will not ask for a summary of facts because it's like a waste of time on the points that you could be submitting. However, some judges may let you present summary of facts. So you do not take too long to present summary of facts. You just maybe 1 to 2 minutes, you clarify the facts that you're going to be talking about today and so on. Okay. Next is simple wording. So, you know, when you are talking for a very long time, I mean, like when you're submitting, you might tend to use very complicated words or very, how do you say, like specific terms like special jargons and so on. So when you use these big words that you have researched on, the judges may not necessarily catch what you're saying, ataupun you also do not know the meaning of the word that you're using, tapi just because it sounds fancy, you're using these words and so on. However, the judges are not going to judge you for your language alone. The judges are actually going to judge you on your arguments and about how you get the message across to the audience. So if you do not get the message across, can get across, like if you use simple language, you don't use very complicated words. So when you use simple words, the judges can understand you better, and it makes your argument much more clear-cut and easily understood. So be straightforward. So meaning to say that you don't use words that are very lengthy, don't make sentences that are very long and too connected with each other. You use short and direct sentences to get your message across. So another thing is that think of this as like you convincing your friends or you're convincing the judges, not like you reading off of the slides or reading off a script, like you hafal a script je kan. So the sentences that you use in a script tu ayat macam essay lah kan. So it doesn't feel natural to the judges. So engage in conversation with them. So use mannerisms ataupun like body language that shows that you are actually talking to the judges, that you are actually conversing with them. Because of course, when you're talking to someone, you know, who is like, for example, you're talking to your friend, you're not going to use like these big words or you know, complicated wording like that. You're going to be talking to them in a way that is simple, that they're going to understand you. So while you maintain the professionalism and the format of mooting, use words ataupun language that is simple and easily understood. Do not use overly formal mannerism ataupun overly formal words when you are talking to the judges. Sebab when you are, you know, santai, more relaxed, you get your points across much more effectively. So on that topic as well, what you should do is you do not beat around the bush. You get straight to the point. You do not, like for example, you know that in your case, that this person could be charged for, katakanlah, I mean like no, like for example, you know that there are some faults that the applicant has made. Like I'm told, the person that you are defending is has committed several wrongs. Again, so instead of completely avoiding or saying that no, he didn't do this, or trying to justify it in a way that is not appropriate, you admit that what he did was wrong, and so on, but you also provide arguments to say that, okay, this was wrong. However, in circumstances such as in this case, it can be it could be excused due to certain provisions in the rule which allow for exemptions in certain situations, where in this situation this applies, this exemption applies, for example, again. So you're straightforward, you do not skip around certain topics, you go directly, address things directly to the judges. Don't expect the judges to catch indirect references. So whatever that you want to say it directly to the judges. Don't assume that the judges know what you're talking about. Like for example, maybe certain cases, like again, you expect that the judges already know about the case, so you don't talk about what's inside it. You just say that, okay, so in this case, this is similar because of circumstances of this case. It is similar to the case that we are citing. So if you're not going to be using the words to describe what you're talking about, then the judges don't know what you are submitting. So don't expect the judges to know what you have not submitted. Another thing is that don't read out the long sentences that you have drafted in scripts. It seems like you're reading it and not submitting or engaging in conversation with the judges. So even if you do hafal or memorize certain scripts, don't make it too obvious to the judges. Use simple, straightforward words. Next is confidence. So confidence, of course, like Sir Shafiq mentioned, you can't necessarily train on confidence, but it is acquired with the amount of training that you do, with the amount of research that you're doing. Confidence comes with that. But of course, some people are naturally more confident than others as well, but it shouldn't, like let's say for example, if you're not confident talking to maybe a panel of judges or so on, you will have to train on that. You work on it to make sure that at least what you're talking about is able to be understood by the judges. So another thing is that when you're not confident, it shows to the judges that you are not fully prepared, or how do I say it? You're nervous. It might show that you are not confident in your own points. That is why you're not confident in your submission, and that it shows that you haven't provided the proper research and so on. So if you're not confident to answer the judge's questions, then it shows that you haven't done proper research on the topic. So judges will not ask questions that is outside of the topic. So what you're supposed to do is, what you can do to feel more confident is you dress appropriately, smartly, you iron your coat properly, you wear tie, make sure that it's not too loose, it fits well with you. So when you are dressed properly, automatically you will feel confident. You eliminate the, how do I say, the you don't feel segan lah that you are not dressed well for the occasion ke apa kan. So when you dress appropriately, smartly, you feel confident. You presenting yourself in a way that you want to present yourself. And another thing is that when you're submitting your points, do not backtrack on your arguments when questioned by judges. Stay firm with your arguments. So what I mean by do not backtrack on your arguments is that when you've already submitted something, in your head, you're confident that this is the point. But when the judges question you, you say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. What I was trying to say was that a completely different point. So when you are backtracking on your points, it shows that you tak ada pendirian. So when you tak ada pendirian, how are you going to tegakkan this case when you yourself are not firm on your stance of this argument? So even if the judges do not agree with you, disagree politely with them and give your reasons why you are disagreeing with them. So if the judges say, I think that what you are submitting is wrong because in these circumstances, the applicant should have acted again. So you reaffirm your stance to say, unfortunately, I would like to disagree with you because we believe that the applicants have acted considerably reasonably within their circumstances, because then you provide your argument why you feel that, why you disagree with the judges and so on. So you don't disagree just because you want to disagree. You disagree with a reason. So you provide evidence, facts, cases to back up your reason why you disagree with the judges. So you do not backtrack, you stay firm with your argument. Aside from that, don't be nervous. Because if the judges can see that you're nervous, they will ask more questions, and then you go even more nervous. It shows that you are not prepared. So, you know, when you're nervous, suddenly you freeze. Okay, judges keep asking you questions because they see that you're not confident. But still, you freeze. You stop talking. So when that happens, no one can help you. So you are completely dead there. So ensure that you do not freeze. Be confident or be straightforward, direct. You tell them, unfortunately, I cannot assist you with that question and so on. You cannot answer a question, you tell them you cannot answer the question confidently. You know, when judges are, you know, asking for reaffirmation, meaning like they ask you balik. So what you're trying to submit is that Indonesia has breached the principle of non-intervention because this diplomat has done this action. Is that right, Contoh? They ask you for reaffirmation. Reaffirm the stance. You tell them again, yes, that is exactly what I'm trying to convey because blah 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 and so on. So reaffirm the judges, stay firm. Meaning to say that when the judges ask you a question, is this what you're trying to say? Say yes, this is what I was trying to mention. This is the argument from our side, and so on. And as I mentioned earlier, speak to the judges like you are communicating with a colleague. You don't have to fear them, or you don't have to pander to them. Meaning to say that, like, don't be afraid of the judges. You are there to convince them. They're not gonna, you know, throw a book at you, throw their shoes at you. They're not gonna physically harm you. They're not gonna take legal action against you. So there's nothing for you to be afraid of. So talk to them, convince them as you can. Talk to them like you're talking to a friend or like a lecturer or a colleague. You know, communicate or, you know, convince them why you are right. That's all. It's nothing to be afraid of. Okay, so speak to them casually. You don't have to be overly formal in a way that you are like, yes, Mr. Adjudicator, yes, you are completely right. I agree with everything that you are saying. Whatever that I'm saying is wrong. Contoh lah kan. So don't overly fear them ataupun go with what they're saying. You can disagree with the judges, and the judges are not necessarily always correct. So they could be saying certain things to throw you off. So be firm, be confident in what you're saying. So I have a video that I want to show you guys an example, a sample of a submission, of really good submission where this guy is really composed. He is actually very, you know, confident in his point. So even when the judges are questioning him about what he is presenting and so on, he can reaffirm his stance. He can tell the judges, yes, that's what I'm talking about. He can disagree and so on. We wait for the video to load. And he doesn't freeze in his arguments. You can see from the mannerisms itself that he's confident in what he's trying to communicate to the judges, and that he has done his proper research, so he knows how to answer the judges' questions.
Good afternoon, President Lima and Judges Wedgwood and Alvarez. My name is Sebastian Machado, and it is an honor for me to appear before the National Court of Justice this afternoon, pleading on behalf of the Republic of Alicante. I will speak for the following 22 minutes, and I will be addressing Alicante's first submissions. The first one referring to the content to...
Sorry, give me a moment. I hope you guys can see my screen. So, but earlier I just presented my screen fully, so you guys can see everything.
And it is an honor for me to appear before the National.
I'm audible, right? You guys can hear what I'm presenting, right? You guys can hear.
Yes. Mr. Cherry, yes.
Okay, all right.
This afternoon, pleading on behalf of the Republic of Alicante. I will speak for the following 22 minutes. I will be addressing Alicante's first submissions. The first one referring to the content to Barbesian intervention in Alicante territory and how it contravenes international law. And I will then turn to the intelligence which was gathered to justify this operation. I will then yield the floor to my co-agent, Mr. Guillermo Talda, who will speak for 21 minutes, and he will address Alicante's last submissions. The third one referring to the conduct of Barbesian troops while stationed at Camp Terra, and lastly, the assassin, Ricardo Donati, and how he must be immediately delivered to Alicante to comply with his judicial sentence. In consequence, Your Excellencies will be reserving 2 minutes for a rebuttal. Mr. President, and may it please the Court. December 2005, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 5440, by which it authorized a peacekeeping operation inside the territory of Alicante. Once this operation was completed, Your Excellencies, notwithstanding the allegations of the sexual exploitation and the broadcasting, subject of our third submission, Barbesian decided nonetheless to intervene, authorizing the mission. Your Excellencies, none of these factors are found in Resolution 6620.
Council, would you say that, for instance, the authorization given to a coalition in 1978 is a good example of a clear mandate?
It is, Mr. President, for one reason, and I understand your concern because Resolution 678 merely referred to the obligation set out in Resolution 6620.
So what he's done here is like he's going along with what the judges are saying. So like when the judges ask for clarification, they're asking him to reaffirm. They're asking like, okay, so based on these circumstances, this is what happened. So this is the correct or the appropriate solution to this matter. So when they're asking certain things like this, like, are you sure about this thing? Is this the correct mechanism for you to apply in this situation? So you go on with it, you confidently reaffirm, like what he did here. You reaffirm, or you're confident, you say, yes, this is what I'm trying to say. Why I'm saying this is because of blah, 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 and so on. You give your reasons. So be clear, you do not freeze.
In this sense, that the mandate is very clear. That is to comply with the obligations to push the Iraqi troops back into the state of Iraq. And there was a very clear language and a very precise mandate. Your Excellency, nonetheless, these resolutions and the operation in 1990 did include the other factors, reporting duty by the intervening states, and a very precise
So, like, right, so like he was talking earlier, you could see that he's very clear. He doesn't, talk. I mean, like, stop. There's no fillers in his speech. He is confident. There is no backtracking. He is going forward. It's like a train. Mooting is like you just go like a train. You just move forward. You do not backtrack, go back to any arguments that you already gave. You keep ulang the same thing. So you have to submit whatever that you want to submit, and you do so confidently, and you must ensure that everyone can understand what you're saying as well. So as you saw earlier how he was speaking, it is clear. The way he's talking to the judges also, it's not like he is, reading off a script or anything. He is communicating to them. He's convincing them that on his point ataupun what the judges are questioning him on, he is answering them clearly, directly. He addresses the issue directly without talking about other things to buy him time. He's not beating around the bush talking about other things while he thinks of an answer for that. He goes straight to the point. So if you have proper research and you know your facts well, then with that confidence you answer the questions from the judges. So next is pace and clarity. So meaning to say that you have to maintain a certain speed when you are talking. You ensure that everyone can hear what you're talking about. You enunciate ataupun you pronounce the words properly so that the judges can understand you. So, I mean, it's natural that everyone, I would say, a lot of people, I mean, in language learning, we know it's a fact that everyone has an accent. It's just a matter of whose accent is more, how do you say, is understandable, whose accent sounds most familiar with the native speakers, punya accent and so on. So everyone has an accent. Everyone speaks differently. You can't completely mimic the second language, because we know, like for example, English is not our first language. It's our second language. So I would say generally as Malaysians, our English is okay compared to other countries, for example, who may struggle to pronounce certain words. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to maintain a proper pace or a speed so that you do not talk too fast that the judges get lost ataupun macam like they cannot catch what you're talking about, or talk too slow to a point where the judges feel that you're just trying to drag it, or that it's too slow for them to keep up with the submission and so on. So like the speech that the pace that I'm using right now to talk to you guys, I think I would say that this is average to quite faster. So if you guys can maintain a pace which is something similar to this, and communicate to the judges in a way that you're not stopping for very long, not taking too many pauses when you are speaking, not using a lot of fillers, then that is okay. So speak with average pace, not too fast or too slow. Another thing is do not slur your words. So you have to mouth them properly to ensure judges understand you well. So what I mean by slurring your words is that while you are submitting, you do not whisper to yourself certain things, or you say, or you submit, or when you're talking, you give certain words out faster. You cakap cepat-cepat to a point where the judges don't hear you, ataupun they couldn't catch the words that you were saying. Like the sentence, for example, do not slur your words. If I say, do not slur your words, so when I'm talking like that, you don't understand what I'm saying, kan? So be clear and mouth your words properly. So jangan how do we say, mouth your words, don't malas open your mouth. So word your sentences properly. Another thing is you do not read out your submission script. Okay, I think I've repeated this as well many times. I would like to repeat it again. Do not read your submission script. So because when you're making a script, you use sentences like essay punya sentences, kan? So macam like there's so many and, so many buts in the sentences. So it's very connected, kan? So when you're giving a very, very long sentence or very long explanation, the judges or the audience can get they lose track of what you're saying, and it shows that you're just memorizing a script. It doesn't show that you have understood your arguments properly. So it's a red flag for the judges. Next is you reword certain things if judges don't understand what you're talking about. So for example, you're talking about the principle of sovereignty, for example. Again, principle of sovereignty. So when you explain the principle of sovereignty to the judges, maybe they're confused with the words that you use or so on. So what you do is, if they don't understand what you're talking about, you reword it to them. in a way that they understand. Use simpler words, put it simply, say it in a short way again. Ataupun you use examples to illustrate what you're talking about. You say, okay, sovereignty is the principle where a country is independent in their actions, meaning they have full authority to engage in certain things. Whatever that they do is up to their own authority. It is up to them to decide what decisions that they make in governing the state and so on. So you illustrate this with examples. For example, you say Malaysia is a sovereign state where the decisions that they make in government policies and decisions in agreeing to certain conventions and so on is up to their full authority, is up to them due to them being a sovereign state, for example. Again, so you're using examples of states, you're using examples of cases to illustrate your arguments. So this makes it clearer for the judges about what you are talking about. So like I said, pace, if you're nervous, sometimes you tend to talk very fast. So always be aware of the speed that you are speaking in. So to ensure that you don't speak too fast, you don't rush your points and so on. Okay, so yeah, this is a good example, I would say, of his pace. The way he communicates his submission is done in a way where it is very straightforward. It's not too fast, it's not too slow. So even if he does have an accent, you have the time to, you know, listen to what he's saying and understand the words that are coming out of his mouth. And you can understand the message that he's trying to convey as well. Okay.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, my name is Christopher Bashara. I am the applicant, State of Argentina. Co-agent, Glenn Kennedy. I will be speaking first for 22 minutes. My co-agent will speak second for 20 minutes, and we reserve 3 minutes for rebuttal. Your Excellencies, the attack on the Bakhtar Valley Hospital was but one of 50 strikes in a regalian campaign that violated Armenia's territorial integrity and disregarded the minimum standards.
Mr. Bashar, can I ask you to proceed any further? The claims that you're making with regards to the strikes, which claims are you making in terms of your own direct rights? Which ones are you making in your indirect rights, if at all, or are they both the same?
Mr. President, there is a direct injury to the state of Armenia, namely the drone strikes occurring in Regalia's territory, foremost among which was the Bakhtar Valley Hospital strike. There are also drone strikes occurring in Regalia, and we note that separate bases stand pleaded in relation to each. With respect to the drone strikes in Regalia, we submit that Armenia has standing on an erga omnes partes basis, which the respondent disputes in pages 1 and 9.
So, like the guy who was speaking earlier, the speed that he uses in his argument, he's not talking too fast, so you can catch exactly what he is saying, and that there are pauses to signify that he is, moving from a sentence to another sentence, that he's moving from another point to another point. So these verbal cues that he is giving communicate his message properly to the judges. So speak with proper pace and be clear in your speech. Do not slur words. Make sure that the way that you are talking is able to be understood. Simply put, just make sure that they can hear you. Don't talk too softly. Speak loud enough for them to hear you. And also make sure that you're talking at a proper pace where they can catch what you're trying to tell them. So lastly, know your facts. This is ultimately down to your research. So if you do proper research, you do proper reading, you refer to cases, precedents, and so on, you're referring to examples from maybe article journals and so on, like that, from books. So when you know these facts, you can cite these when you are answering the judge's questions and so on. And you can use these facts and elaborations to back up your submission or the points that you're trying to get across to the judges. So for you to do this, you need to understand your arguments from the submission inside out. So meaning to say that even if like the question is, for example, the judges ask a question and that you understand that the needs of the question is exactly the same as what you have in your oral submission script again. So you answer the judges with what you are going to present tadi tu. What you're going to submit to, you use it as your answer to the judges' questions. So you don't have to repeat the points that you have prepared earlier because you've already answered it within the question that was posed by the judges. So when you know your arguments, you know the points that you are presenting. So when the judges are asking you questions and so on, you can answer it based on what you have prepared for your oral submission. So another thing is that when you're citing cases, you stand by to explain the principle that was highlighted in the case and also how it was applied. So meaning to say, for example, Corfu Channel case, like for example, if they use principle of non-intervention, for example, this is the principle that's used. So meaning to say that they cannot enter the Corfu Straits without communicating it to the other party, that they cannot enter your territory without your permission. So this is the principle that was in the case. So highlight that exact principle when you are citing the case and you tie it to your argument. You say, okay, so in our case, we can see that Indonesian spies have entered Malaysia without communicating their intentions, or without communicating to the Malaysian authorities that they would be present in these premises. So when they have been within these premises without the permission and so on, they have violated the principle of blah 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 and so on lah, kan? So you use examples and cases to illustrate what you want to get across in your arguments. So another thing is that when you are using cited material like books, journal articles, cases, and so on, you must understand what was actually decided in these books, cases, articles, and so on. Do not spin the facts ataupun reword it where the actual meaning has already changed. So don't change the decided principles from the cases. For example, let's say in the Corfu Channel case, the applicant was the one who was liable for the respondent, kan contoh. Tapi you read the case and you understand it differently, so you think that it was actually the applicant who was in the wrong and not the respondent, kan? So when you don't understand the case itself, when you don't understand the proper arguments, when you don't understand your own facts, it means that you are misdirecting the judges. You are providing false information to the judges in your submissions. So be clear about what you are talking about and explain what you're talking about, the principles that you're trying to get across and so on properly, and explain them in depth if the judges require you to do so. So where in the case that the judges ask questions, or if the judges are citing cases that you are not familiar with, then what you have to do is don't act like you know the case or act like you know what they're talking about if you don't know. Don't lie to the judges. Because, for example, you goreng je, like a certain principle from a case that they cited. Contoh, they ask you, in the Western Sahara case, the principle that they used was this. So is this similar to your argument? Contoh, they ask something like that. Okay. So you pula you've never read anything about the Western Sahara case, and you don't know what exactly was the principle that was used in that case. Tapi you pula agree, and then you say, yes, it is the same principle because in our case we use the same principle, blah blah blah, and so on. So you just goreng, you go along with the judges are saying, kan? So if the judges catch you lying, it doesn't set a very good image for yourself. Huh? So be careful about what case you're citing, what facts you are giving, and so on. Make sure that what you are submitting to the judges is correct. do not mislead them, and do not spread misinformation. So that's all for my presentation to you guys. So I would presume that after this is the question and answer session. So I pass the floor back to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Sharil, for your talk. Now we will open the Q&A session for both Mr. Shafiq and Mr. Sharil. Everyone is welcome to ask anything regarding the international law mode. Feel free to open your mic or write down your curiosity in the chat box.
Okay, so I answer the question directly from the chat box, eh? Okay, so for the question, what if the opposition has missed the point? So what will happen is that, for example, if you are the applicant, so you are submitting for 20 minutes each, like 40 minutes, the first speaker and the second speaker. So after you have already submitted what you wanted to submit, you have made your case across lah. So you have made your points clear. So if, let's say, the opposition has missed the point, or they submit on something that is completely not related to the case or so on, then the judges will, it's up to the judges if they want to, accept their arguments or not. But if, like, let's say the opposition salah faham the case and they miss the point, then obviously the points will go to the applicant side. And the applicant side will win the case. Like I said, but if the opposition does not understand what they're supposed to, be presenting to the judges, then obviously they have already lost the case itself. I hope that answers the question. Okay, so next, the question by Faris. So during the competition, can we ask the judges to repeat the question and ask them to explain the definition for a term? Yes, you can. So during the competition, like, let's say if the question is not clear to you or you don't understand the question, ask the judges or tell them, I beg your pardon, I'm sorry, but could you rephrase the question, or ask them like, my apologies, could you please clarify what you meant by that specific term, and so on, like that. So it's not wrong. You're not breaking any rules by asking the judges to repeat or clarify anything that they're asking you. And most of the time, the judges will be more than happy to explain to you lah. Okay, and the second question on the differences between mooting and debating. Okay, so the difference between mooting and debating, of course, the length. Debating is only like 7 minutes for a session, and it's more, how to say, spontaneous compared to the mooting, where mooting is much more prepared, researched on. So you need to do a lot of in-depth reading for you to be able to present your case properly in mooting. So you need to have a lot of background knowledge on cases, facts, article journals and so on. You read a lot. So these references are what is going to help you in mooting. However, in debating, it's a lot about general knowledge. Because of course, in debating, you only know the motion that you're going to be debating on 30 minutes before the session. Whereas for mooting, you get to know the moot problem a few months beforehand. So you have a lot of time to prepare your arguments. And for that matter, with all the arguments that you have made, you need to ensure that your facts are correct. You need to ensure that they are relevant to your case and so on. So mooting is much more complex and complicated compared to debating. So a lot more preparation and time is put into mooting. Oh, and Sir Shafiq, sir, if you want to answer any of the questions, please do as well. So, but I think the Q&A is for both of us, right? If I'm not mistaken. Okay. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, all right. So the question from Dania, what is the most challenging thing I experienced while preparing for JASA? The most challenging thing for JASA was writing the written memorial for me personally lah. Personally, for me, writing the memorial requires a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of looking for articles, cases, books, going reading into all of these things in depth to find relevant citations ataupun facts that you can use in your argument kan. So you already have a lot of commitments with studies, assignments, and so on. But you're adding an extra assignment in the form of the written memorials, in the form of the oral scripts that you are preparing, and so on. So it's like an extra burden, I would say, for you if you're going through a very hectic schedule and so on. So time management is going to be very crucial. So always have to make time for researching, studying the principles that are going to apply to your arguments and so on. So the most challenging thing is that it's the commitment to researching, to reading up on the facts and things every week, preparing the materials that is necessary for your arguments, for your submissions and so on. Okay. Next. What do I do if the facts in the MOOT problem are incomplete or unsatisfactory? Okay, so what I can do is you can get clarifications on the MOOT problem. So these clarifications, I think it's called clarification. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. I think it's called clarification. So when the MOOT problem is released, like for JESA, anything that we're not clear with, or if there's any facts that are wrong, contradictory, normally you will list it down, the problems with the problem itself, ataupun in the MOOT problem lah kan, you list down whatever that is wrong with it, and then you will submit it ataupun you email these clarifications to the organizers, ILSA lah, ILSA HQ. So what they will do is they will provide, they will publish the clarifications for the questions that you have asked them lah. So from there you can see lah if they answer your question regarding the incomplete or unsatisfactory facts. So if any case, like if there is any facts that they have missed out on, they will clarify it in the answered clarifications in the document. They will publish this document lah, so you can refer that to the clarifications. So what you're going to do is, if the facts are incomplete, we will email it within the clarification punya period. They give you like, I think 2 weeks, 2 weeks to 3 weeks, I can't quite remember, but I think it's 2 weeks for you to go through the MOOT problem, and then you go through that MOOT problem lah within those 2 weeks. Then you list out everything that's wrong, then you email it to the organizers. So they will give you the format as well lah, how to do it and so on. Okay. I noticed there was a question for Sir Shafiq. Yeah. Okay. Sir, please.
I thought I could hide myself behind the door, behind the curtain or something. So let our mood master to address everything. So there's one question for me by Mr. Farr. If we are not winning these competitions, is there any other competitions other than JESUP that we can participate under ILSA? Of course, we have. Is there does chief competition officer in the house? So when people direct question to me, I direct to someone else. That's my expertise. Where's the chief competition officer? Sri Darnisa. Shri? Shri Darnisa. Shri Darnisa is absent. So it's very unfortunate. So I think we have a few other competitions as well under ILSA that you guys can participate. Other than JESUP, we have a few actually. My vision, my missions, my dreams is to see if you visit ILSA websites. There are dozens of other competitions all over the world. A lot of competitions. When I was doing my LLB here, I participate in MOOT competitions in Mumbai, India. I went to India. During that time, HEPA sponsored us, flight tickets and everything, accommodation and so on. So I know it's quite hard to get those things nowadays, but probably someday it could happen again. And then I went to Japan, Tokyo as well for MOOT competitions. So it's not just JESUP. JESUP is like the Olympic of the whole competitions because of the complexity, because of the prestige. A lot of people know JESUPs. When it comes to MOOT competitions, JESUP is always something on top of the list. Okay, this prestige being associated with the competition, so that's why it has this name and branding to it. But there are other competitions as well. But our focus now for ILSA UniSZA is to concentrate on JESUP first, together with IHL, because since our faculty been established back in 2006 until today, we haven't won anything yet, significant yet. We never win MOOT competitions, never won MOOT competitions like IHL. We never won JESUP and so on. So just focus on what is here before we expand further. And then when our students have successfully have done good job in JESUP, IHL, in competitions in our own backyards now as compared to far away from us, then we can find other competitions abroad as well. That's my visions or my focus for now. Okay, and someday, Fuha, we going to organize JESUP national rounds here in Fuha, IHL here. But to do that, we have to perform well. If we consistently end up in the last place, there's no way we can get the right or the supports from ILSA to conduct JESUP national round here. So we really have to perform first before we can do that. All right. I think Mr. Shari has answered very well all other questions. Okay, so I'm not going to add anything further to that. Okay. So moderator, probably you can take over the sessions.
Before that, I would like to ask a question. How orally should address themselves in the MOOT competition? Is it supposed to be a lead counsel and co-counsel, or lead agent and co-agent?
Cheryl?
Yeah, you can hear me again?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So he mentioned how we refer to the others, right? Co-agent, agent, right? That was the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you refer to either as agent or co-agent. or you could also say counsel or co-counsel. It depends on the competition, if I'm not mistaken, sir, or is it up to us for consideration? I think both works, either co-agent or co-counsel. So you just need to be consistent with it, I guess, throughout the whole submission. So you don't say co-counsel and then in the middle of your speech you say co-agent. So be consistent in that je lah kot. But I think Sir Shafiq could answer that because I'm not sure as well.
So we refer to our partner as co-agents, all right, co-counsel. Sometimes judges, they use the terms counsels, but officially it's supposed to be agent. At international courts, tribunals, international law, we call it agent because we represent the country, but that's how the lingo goes lah, agent. For domestic courts, you know, when you do mooting course or when you join local moot competitions, then it is councils. But we do have the terms council as well. It's an off council or table council, the third one, right? You have first agent, we have second agent, and we have council. We have, for example, in Jessup, we have 5 oralists max. So sometimes when rounds happen simultaneously, applicant and respondents, they argue at the same time. Usually this is what happens. This is what usually happen for physical competitions. For online competitions, fortunately, it doesn't happen that way. So it's like from 10 to 12 a.m. now is for applicant, and then in the evening is our respondents. But physical rounds, which is this next year, February 2023 for JSUP 2023 competitions, then usually because they try to compress as many rounds as possible because to save times. National rounds, physical national rounds usually happen in 2 days or maybe 3 days, 2 days usually. So as many teams as possible should be performing simultaneously. So we have 5 oralists, then we decide the 5th member should stay with either applicant or respondent. Usually the 5th member will become off counsel, table counsel. They will accompany respondent because in my opinions, arguably a respondent is the hardest positions as compared to the applicants. You know, applicants set the tone, applicants set the whatever ambience, whatever the directions of the entire sessions, and the respondents sort of have to dodge the bullets left, right, everywhere, up and down. So that's the hardest part, and we need 3rd member to become table counsel to help with replying, in responding to the applicant side. So there is a terms of counsel, but it is not used for agent. Okay, we have first agents, second agents, and off counsel or table counsel. So when you refer to counsel in JESUP or in international competitions, international law competitions, we assume, or rather we refer that to the 3rd member of the table, not the one who's submitting, but the one who just sit there to assist the teams. All right. So you refer to your partner as agent, okay, unless you're referring to the 3rd one. It is counsel. Okay, so that's the difference. Okay. Anyone else? Probably. Oh, here, Kishan Kumar, right? Cheryl.
All right. So normally, I mean, what we call the judges are the court judges. We just call them panel of adjudicators or judges lah kan. Tapi when you are submitting, you refer to them as Mr. or Madam President, ataupun Your Excellencies lah for the other judges. So like when you are submitting, you would say Mr. President and Your Excellencies. My name is please honorable court. My name is Muhammad Sharil. For the next 22 minutes, I'll be submitting on blah 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 and so on. Macam tu lah. So for the head judge, we normally call them Mr. President or Madam President. Sir, in case I'm wrong.
Yeah, you are right. Okay. It's Your Excellencies. There are three judges, no matter how many judges, it's Your Excellencies. But the head of the bench, assuming there are three judges, because it could be varied depending on situations. In one, it wouldn't be less than two. I'm talking about JSERP lah, not for our ILSA mood. ILSA mood probably there will be one judge. It depends on how many judges we manage to get. It depends on our organizers' ability to get as many judges as possible. For JSERP, for IHL, it will be minimum two judges, maximum three judges. It wouldn't be more than three judges, two or three. So the head of the bench is president or Mr. or Madam President. The accompanied judges, the associates, left and right, are excellencies. Okay, it's only one judge with special positions. We call it president, madam or Mr. President. So the rest of the judges are excellencies. Okay, that's the terms how we use it. All right.
So is there any other questions? Seems like there is no other question, so I will proceed now. Thank you both speakers for the tips and tricks, and thank you for the question to everyone who attended, especially the oralists. We sincerely hope that this session has helped you to at least get an idea of your upcoming competition and help you get ready for the JSUP International Moot Law Competition. Here's a friendly reminder. I would like to again remind all participants to fill in the attendance form, especially to those who had not yet filled in the form. Before we end the session, we are going to show you the process of the team draw for the competition.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ishraf bin Hassan Dani, the person in charge with the draw attempt for the ILSA UniSZA Moot Court competition for applicant and respondent. So this is, first of all, I would like to introduce, first of all, this is Misha Christina, Director for Workshop 1, What is International Law Mooting? And the second witness is Fatiha Yusof, Director of Workshop 2, What to Research and Memorial Submission. And the witness number 3 is Dania Batrisha, Director of ILSA UniSZA Moot Court Competition. So these are the witnesses for the draw attempt for the ILSA UniSZA Moot Court Competition, applicant and respondent. So I would like to attempt, the total team is for the 8th July. There's been 6 groups. So for the first applicant, the group number 3 for the first applicant, and for the first respondent, so group number 6 is the first respondent. As for the second applicant, is group number 5, and the second respondent group number 4, and the third applicant is group number 2. And the last responder will be the group number 1. So this row, sorry. All right. So for this ILSA UniSZA MOOT competition, the teams for the applicant is group 3, 5, and 2, and the group for respondent is group 6, 4.
The video and the list are both available on our ILSA UniSZA International Law Moot Court Competition Microsoft Team channel. Your assigned coaches will be released next week. Please note that we will have international coaches, so be fully ready and prepared. For those who haven't registered yet, please do so as the registration for the mooting competition will be closed on 12 July 2022. That is the end of our workshop 1. It will be an honor if everyone can open your camera for our photo session, and let's treasure this memory together.
Danny.
Yes, sir.
We have international coaches from outside Malaysia.
Yes, we do have candidates for now. We have currently we are in contact with 2 of them. Sri, I think, is she here? She said she's here, but she has internet connection problem earlier. I don't think I don't think she's here for now. Yes, we have 2 candidates, and we are currently looking at their CV. So later we will provide them to you for, and also Sharia for, to check on them.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, we have coaches from outside the country,
Yes,
foreign
most
citizens.
likely, and we
So
and also probably the local one as well, local coaches.
So turn on your video for our posters. Later, everyone here, okay, smile.
Sir, I cannot turn on my camera because I'm afraid I will be kicked out of the meeting again. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So can we proceed with photo shoot now? Who's taking the photo shoot?
It's supposed to be Faris, but he's having internet connection problems, so I'll be doing the photo session.
Right.
So yep, in the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, one more time. 1, 2, 3. All right.
Okay. So that's it. Is there any conclusions? Moderator, yeah. Can we leave now?
Yes, we can leave now.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and
Thank you.
all the best for the competitions. All right.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shafiq, Mr. Sharia.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck with the mooting competition.
Thank you, everyone.